Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, we're discussing Series 10, Episode 6, Extremis. After a quick recap to remind us of the fact that the Doctor went blind in the last episode, we get a flashback to a long time ago. This episode will jump back and forth between this flashback and the present for the entirety of its run, which is a bit annoying considering that this whole flashback takes place over a time frame of about 10 minutes, but it provides us with some answers to some pretty big questions, so I can forgive it. The Doctor is in a beautiful mountainous location, and I have to say right off the bat that everything in this scene is absolutely gorgeous. The lighting in this episode is really well done, and this beautifully lit outdoor scenery is a great contrast to what will end up being a pretty dark episode overall. Death is an increasing problem, says the narrator, as the Doctor approaches what looks to be a castle by boat. With over 1 billion intelligent species active in this galaxy alone, it is an ever greater challenge to know how to kill all of them. On this planet, they are proud to serve as executioners to every living thing. The execution of a Time Lord, however, is a particular honor. The man leading the Doctor, whose name is Rafando, explains that the process will stop both hearts, all 3 brainstems, and deliver a shockwave that will permanently disable regeneration. "I know how it works," says the Doctor. "You certainly will in a moment," Rafando replies. He goes on to explain that the body will be placed in a quantum-fold chamber under constant guard for no less than 1,000 years, in case of relapses. A nod perhaps to the Doctor Who movie, where even after being executed by the Daleks, the Master still managed to come back as some sort of slime snake, despite the Doctor watching over him. At this moment, any mystery over whether Rafando is talking about executing the Doctor completely disappears, as we realize that he is talking about the vault that the Doctor has been guarding for half the season already. However, that won't stop them from trying to convince us that it's still him that's being executed. Sure enough, Rafando reveals that their law stipulates that the sentence must be carried out by another Time Lord, which explains how the Doctor got picked for this job. But that means that the person in the vault this whole time has been Missy, or the Master, as she used to be called. We finally get concrete proof that it is in fact Missy inside the vault, putting an end to the countless speculation, and also an end to the mystery of the season. I must say, I'm very surprised that they only waited 6 episodes before revealing what the vault was all about, and I don't think that the surprise was worth it in the end. Missy acts surprised to see the Doctor, telling him she last heard he was retired. Domestic bliss on Beryllium is the word among the Daleks, she says. She asks him what happened, but the pain on his face answers her question. This is a great little detail because it tells us that this is right after his time with River, so we can imagine that he's definitely not in the best of moods right now. Missy offers her condolences, and the both of them walk up to the altar. Rafando tells the prisoner to kneel, and they still insist on trying to make it seem like the Doctor is the one being executed. But after a moment, Missy kneels on the altar and pleads to the Doctor, who is acting as her executioner. "Please, I'll do anything. Just let me live." Switching to the present, we see the Doctor at the vault, clearly troubled. "They can't know I'm blind, Missy. No one can know. The memories are so much worse in the dark," he says to the vault door, still coming to terms with his disability. Suddenly, he gets an alert on his sonic shades, an incoming message. The title, Extremis. After the credits, we see the Doctor alone in his lecture hall with all of his lights off, though whether or not he knows that he's sitting in the dark is unclear. Suddenly, many people start to file into the room, and the Doctor's sonic shades, which are able to give him at least a little information about the room via a psychic link, tell him that they are middle-aged men. He calls out to them, asking who's there, and a man reveals that they come from the Vatican, with a request for his help from the highest level, Pope Benedict, in 1045. The doctor thinks back to the female pope fondly and mentions that she was trouble, but she wove her spell with her castanets. The cardinal implores the doctor to focus, telling him and Nardole, who has come to assist the doctor, that the Pope himself would like a personal audience with him on behalf of every human soul on Earth. The doctor asks why the Pope didn't just come here himself, but Nardole awkwardly explains to the blind doctor that he did, and he is standing right in front of them. The doctor apologizes for not recognizing the Pope before asking why he has traveled all the way here. The doctor knows that the Pope does not zoom around the world in his Pope-mobile surprising people. So why would he do that, he asks. Extremis, replies the Pope. Just a quick side note, the word extremis is Latin and refers to either a very difficult situation or when you are at the point of death. Okay, back to the recap. Back in the doctor's office, the Cardinal and Pope explain that there is an ancient text, even older than the church itself, written in a lost language. An old religious sect translated the text, but soon after, the entire sect committed a mass suicide, and all of their translations were lost, except for its title, Veritas, literally, the truth. A few months ago, after centuries of work, the Veritas was translated again. However, everyone who worked on the translation, and everyone who subsequently read it, is dead by their own hand. The text contains a secret that drives all who know it to destroy themselves. The Cardinal reveals that one of the translators is missing, but the rest were confirmed suicides, and these men were all devout Christians. They killed themselves knowing it was a sin, choosing hell rather than living. Doctor, asks the Pope, will you read the Veritas? We now join Bill on a date, as she has brought a girl home for the first time. However, Bill's foster mom is home unexpectedly, and at first gives Bill a hard time about bringing a date home. But, once she realizes that it's just a girl, named Penny, she immediately relaxes, apparently not knowing that Bill is actually a lesbian. She leaves the two alone as she goes out to the pub, telling Bill not to do anything she wouldn't do, which makes Bill smile considering her plans for Penny. As Bill and Penny relax over a cup of tea, alone at last, the unmistakable sound of the TARDIS fills the house. Bill just blames it on the pipes and prepares to go and confront the doctor, but Penny stops her, telling her that she's very nervous about this date, as she's never really done anything like this before. As Bill comforts her, telling her that she has nothing to be ashamed about, the Pope emerges from Bill's bedroom and begins shouting at them in Italian. Penny is understandably concerned about this and storms out of the apartment after seeing the TARDIS. Bill is furious, and after telling all of the Cardinals that they are all going to hell, she enters the TARDIS to confront the Doctor. Bill yells at him for interrupting her date, and he apologizes solemnly. Bill asks Nardole what's wrong, and he begins to explain that the Doctor is still blind, but the Doctor motions for him not to, so he settles for just explaining the situation to her, telling her it doesn't look good. Flashing back to the execution, a priest has shown up to offer the Doctor some spiritual guidance. Raffondo gives the Doctor 5 minutes to convene with him, and the Doctor goes off to confront the priest. "Greetings, sinner," says the figure. "Only in darkness are we revealed." "I never sent for you," says the Doctor. "Goodness is not goodness that seeks advantage," the figure says, reading from a book. "Good is only good in the final hour, in the deepest pit without hope, without witness, without reward. Virtue is only virtue in extremis." This is what he believes, and this is the reason above all I love him, my husband, my madman in a box, my doctor. Your missus wouldn't approve. At this point, we realize that the priest is actually Nardole, sent by River, and this quote he reads from her diary, specifically the without hope, witness, or reward part, will end up being a central theme of this episode and possibly the remainder of the series. Nardole is here to tell the doctor that River would not be happy if she knew that he was taking part in an execution, even if it's the Master's. "How the hell did you get here?" asked the doctor. "Followed you from Beryllium, on the explicit orders of your late wife, River Song. Warning, I have full permission to kick your ass," says Nardole. Flashing back to the present, the TARDIS has landed in the Vatican, but before the doctor can depart, Nardole corners him, asking him why they have to keep his blindness a secret from Bill. The doctor claims that it's because he doesn't want her to worry about him when she should be worrying about herself. But Nardole counters that it's because once he tells her, it will make it real and force him to deal with it. "Good point," the doctor concedes as he moves to exit. "You're an idiot," says Nardole. "Everyone knows that," replies the doctor with a smile. At this point, the Pope says he must leave the doctor, and the Cardinal continues their journey through the Vatican to the entrance of the Hereticum, the Library of Forbidden and Heretical Texts. The library was founded by the doctor's friend, Pope Benedict, who was mentioned earlier, so the entrance lies behind her portrait. As they enter the Hereticum, the Cardinal warns them to stay close to him, as the halls are designed to confuse people. Bill asks the doctor if he's happy wearing his shades. "Dark enough for you?" she asks. "In darkness we are revealed," answers the doctor, mirroring the River quote from before, which, speaking of which, triggers another flashback to the execution. The priest's 5 minutes are up, and it's time to carry out the sentence. "I'll be good, I promise," pleads Missy. "I'll turn good, please. Teach me how to be good." "Without hope, without witness, without reward," answers the doctor, which quickly ends the flashback. See what I mean about that quote? It's been referenced twice already, and we only heard it 4 minutes ago. Back in the Hereticum, the Cardinal leads the way down a hallway when a bright light appears around the corner. The doctor can't detect it with his sonic shades, but Nardole explains it to him, as the Cardinal calls out to whoever is producing the light that this is a forbidden area. As the group rounds the corner, the source of the light is revealed to be a portal with a figure standing just inside, looking out at them. The doctor's sonic shades register a person, but it cannot detect any other information about them. In a moment, the portal closes, leaving only the solid wall behind. As the Cardinal stays behind to inspect the wall, the others continue on a short way to the Veritas, but as they approach, a man surprises them from inside the small reading room. He tells them, "I sent it," before running off into the maze of corridors. Meanwhile, the portal in the wall opens up again for a brief moment, and the Cardinal is pulled inside, disappearing. As the TARDIS team inspects the room the man was just occupying, they notice that he left his laptop behind and discover that he has recently sent an email to CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, the largest particle physics laboratory on the planet. They surmise that the man, who looked like a priest, sent a copy of the translated Veritas to CERN, and they have just sent a reply back. "Pray for us." "When do scientists ask for prayers?" asks Bill. "The same time anyone does," replies the doctor, "when they're very, very afraid." The doctor guesses that the man was likely the missing translator that was unaccounted for, which Bill sees as a bit of good news, as this means that at least one person has read the Veritas and survived. But it seems she has spoken too soon, as a gunshot rings out from the darkness of the library. The doctor uses his sonic shades to see that the man has died, as his heart rate falls to 0. Still, he asks Bill and Nardole to go and see if the man is okay, promising to not read the Veritas until they return. Bill questions if he is trying to get rid of them, since he is sending them into the dark after a man with a gun, so the doctor instructs Nardole to walk in front of Bill, settling the issue. As they leave, the doctor pulls out a device and begins to attach electrodes to his temple. As Bill and Nardole walk through the library, Nardole moves in front of Bill. Bill tells him that he doesn't actually have to do that, but Nardole insists, saying he is the only person Bill will ever meet that has permission to kick the doctor's ass, and he will not hesitate to do the same to her if she impedes his ability to keep her safe. Bill relents and asks Nardole if he's secretly a badass. "There's nothing secret about it, baby doll," he confidently replies, before shrieking in fear at seeing the body of the dead priest holding his gun. This possibly being the funniest gag in the entire episode. As the two inspect the body, a portal opens up behind them, and after admitting that it would be a stupid idea to walk into it, they do just that. Meanwhile, the doctor has finished setting up his device, and taking off his glasses, he prepares to initiate it. Hearing someone approaching and assuming it to be the Cardinal, he calls out asking for a little help, admitting that he doesn't exactly know what will happen. Either he will temporarily fix his eyesight, or he will burn out his brain. However, we can see that it's not actually the Cardinal that's approaching, but some sort of horrible monster in monk's clothing. The doctor starts the process and the electrodes buzz as his eyes bulge out, and he passes out, which makes for a great transition to the execution again. "I am your friend," says Missy. "It makes no difference," replies the doctor. "I know it doesn't," she continues. "I know I'm going to die, but I have to say it, the truth. Without hope, without witness, without reward, I am your friend." And with that, the doctor pulls the lever, executing Missy. "On my oath as a Time Lord, I will guard this body for 1,000 years, says the doctor, finally setting up the mystery of the vault. Back in the present, we are suddenly at the Pentagon near Washington, D.C. Bill and Nardole open a door and find themselves on a busy work floor, and a woman questions why they are there and whether or not they have clearance for floor 3. "Floor 3 of what?" they ask. "The Pentagon," replies the increasingly concerned woman. The two immediately backpedal and return to the portal, finding themselves in a room full of the glowing doorways, behind each one a different major location. Nardole selects another portal, and they go through it, this time finding themselves in CERN, the same lab that received the Veritas translation. A man, drinking straight from a wine bottle, asks them if they are coming, telling them that everyone has gathered in the cafeteria. Bill asks why, and the man replies, "We are all going together when we go," before laughing to himself and leading the pair to the others. Meanwhile, the doctor's plan seems to have worked, as his eyesight is gradually returning to him. The thing about the universe is whatever you need, you can always borrow, as long as you pay it back. He explains that he borrowed some eyesight from his future, but he will lose something. Maybe his future incarnation will be blind, maybe he won't regenerate at all, but at least he can read the Veritas. Still not being able to see completely clearly, he asks the Cardinal for help strapping him into the reading chair, as it has restraints built in to prevent people from harming themselves after reading it. But once he is strapped in, he realizes that the person helping him is not the Cardinal as he thought, but the twisted monks with their horrible faces. The monks slam shut the Veritas, taking it away, much to the sadness of the doctor, who has sacrificed so much for a chance at reading it. He questions why they would stop him now when they could have at any time. "Why the play acting? This is not a game," he angrily asks them. "This is a game," they reply. "Good, because I win," says the doctor, before using his sonic to shut out the lights. When they finally get them back working, the doctor has gone, but they still have the Veritas. However, the doctor has taken the priest's laptop, which still contains the translation, and he makes his escape through the library, eager for a few precious moments to read it. After getting a good distance away from the monks, he opens the laptop and clicks on the attachment, but as he begins to read just the first few lines of the Veritas, his eyesight begins to leave him once again, his brief window of time beginning to close. To make matters even worse, the monks have found him once again, and he makes a mad dash to get away from them as his eyesight gets worse and worse. Finally, as he falls to the ground, a portal opens up right in front of him, and he uses it to make his escape. Back with Bill and Nardole, they have discovered that they are at CERN, and are at a party where everyone is drinking heavily, though the moods in the room range from very excited to terribly depressed. Nardole is the first to notice that something is not right, and motions for Bill to look under the tables, where she discovers that they are all rigged with explosives. The two of them confront the scientist to ask him why they are doing this, but he replies that they are saving the world. When they are still confused, he realizes that they have not yet read the Veritas. He challenges them to think of a number, any number, and say it when he hits the table next to him. As he strikes it, they both comply, saying at the same time, 36. Try again, keep going, he says with a smile. Again, in unison, they say, 17, showing their confusion on their faces. Again, don't stop, the man says. 9, 24, 103, 1 million, 7 billion and 7, always in unison. Now the scientist joins in with them. 67, 905, 20,460. Now everyone in the whole room joins in with them. 12, 4, 87, 702. Finally, Bill asks how he is doing this. It's a test. It's the shadow test, he replies. I'm really very sorry. As the timers count down the last few seconds before the room explodes, Bill and Nardole run out and back to the portal as the group celebrates their demise. Back in the portal room, Bill and Nardole are both very shaken by what they've just seen. Nardole realizes that these portals are being projected by the machines in this room, but it's not just the portals that are being projected, it's everything and everyone inside of them. Bill doesn't see how this is possible, but Nardole is sure of it. But he's confused as well, since he knows he piloted the TARDIS to the real Vatican, so he can't figure out when exactly they entered a projection. But this realization gives him a frightening thought. Nardole wonders what will happen to them if they step out of the light of the projectors. And so, while hoping that he is wrong with all his might, he places his arm behind the projectors, and it disappears. Nardole screams, realizing that he's part of the projection. "Bill, I'm not real," he says, as his entire body pixelizes and disappears. Bill is horrified, and at first moves to try and do the same thing herself, before deciding that's probably not the best idea, and noticing a blood trail on the floor, she follows it through another portal. Inside this one, Bill sees a television reporting on the mysterious disappearance of the President of the United States, who has not been seen for hours. Bill finds himself inside the Oval Office, with the President having committed suicide in a chair. Sitting at his desk is the Doctor, who calls out to Bill from the dark room. Bill turns on the lights, and the Doctor tells her that he has read the Veritas, or rather, listened to it, using a voice feature on the laptop. "I need to know what's real and what isn't real," Bill tells the Doctor. "Don't we all?" he replies. "Don't play games. Tell me," a desperate Bill says back. At this point, the Doctor settles in to break some terrible news to Bill, and Peter Capaldi really nails this scene perfectly. He explains, "The Veritas tells of an evil demon who wants to conquer the world, but to do it, he needs to learn about it first. So he creates a shadow world, a world they have to practice conquering, full of shadow people who think they're real. If you're in doubt of if you're real, the Veritas asks you to write down a series of numbers of any size in any order, and then flip the page to find all the same numbers." Bringing the story up to date, the Doctor tells Bill to imagine an alien life form of immense power and sophistication that wants to conquer Earth, so it sets up a simulation of all Earth's history and everyone living on it. A practice Earth to assess the abilities of the entire population inside a giant computer game. Bill is adamant that the world they're in feels real, but the doctor explains that computers aren't good with random sequences of numbers, and that anything that's a part of the same simulation will always churn out the same sequence of random numbers. Bill admits that she took the test and got the numbers, and the doctor tells her that he did as well. He tells Bill that once the people realize that they're a part of a simulation, they naturally want to rebel. The people that killed themselves weren't committing suicide, they were escaping. It's like Super Mario figuring out what's going on and deleting himself from the game because he's sick of dying. Bill, still not believing she's part of a simulation, begins to dissolve away like Nardole did. As she calls out to the doctor to help her, she disappears, revealing a monk standing behind her. The monk tells the doctor that she was not real, and he is not real, and the doctor concedes that he is just a shadow doctor for them to practice on. "We have killed you many times," says the monk. The doctor, giving up, tells the monk to just turn him off. "I have nothing, not even hope," he says. But this triggers a memory, back to the execution, and that familiar quote, "Without hope, without witness, without reward." Pulling out River's diary, the doctor says, "Funny, I don't believe much. I'm not sure I believe anything. But right now, belief is all I am. Virtue is only virtue in the extremis." The doctor, changing his tune, warns the monks that he is the doctor, and he is what stands between them and Earth. The monk again taunts that he is not real, but the doctor says you don't have to be real to be the doctor, as long as you never give up, as long as you always trick the bad guys into their own traps. And here's the trap you fell into. Your simulation is too good. It turns out that the doctor's sonic shades have been recording this entire time to compensate for his blindness, which means that his memory print is still saved in them. Information about the monks. And there is one thing that you can always do from inside a computer, even if you're a jumped up little subroutine. You can always email. "What are you doing?" asks the monk. "I'm doing what everyone does when the world's in danger. I'm calling the doctor and pressing send," he says with a smile. With that, the recording ends, and we realize that nothing that we have just seen has actually happened. The entire episode took place in a simulation, and a simulated version of the doctor sent his real self data of his interaction with a future threat. Wow. We'll have more on this in a moment, but that's some pretty Doctor Who level sci-fi shit there. With this information, the doctor realizes that a threat is on the horizon, and his war face is fierce. As his shades beep once more, he gets another message from his simulated self. "Dear Doctor, save them. The Doctor." Pulling out his phone, the doctor calls Bill, who's busy working on an essay at home. The doctor asks her if she knows a girl named Penny, and Bill admits that she does, but she's out of her league. "No," replies the doctor, "she's not out of your league." Bill smiles and says that she will consider calling her tomorrow, but the doctor tells her, "Call her tonight. Something's coming, Bill. Something very big, and something possibly very, very bad. And I have a feeling we're going to be very busy. Call her tonight." With that, he hangs up and approaches the vault. "Missy," the doctor says to the vault door, "if it comes down to it, if you're all I've got left and I need your help, you said you were my friend." With that, we get one last flashback to the execution, and it turns out Missy's not actually dead. "Of course she's not dead," says the doctor. "She's a friend of mine." It turns out the doctor has messed with the wiring and tampered with their execution process, which really pisses off Rafando. But the doctor says he agreed to guard her body for 1,000 years, but no one mentioned dead. Rafando says that he will never leave this planet alive, but the doctor advises him to look up how many fatalities the doctor has credited to him on his record. As Rafando looks up that record, the fatality number ticks up to an incredible amount, and the guards run away in fear. Finally, even Rafando relents and leaves the Doctor and Nardole alone to collect Missy's body. Returning to the present, the Doctor, still at the vault, speaks once more to the door. "Something's coming, Missy, but I'm blind. How can I save them when I'm lost in the dark?" So, overall, I actually really enjoyed this episode. I know a lot of people disliked this one because they felt like it was all pointless. The argument amounting to people mad that they watched a simulated version of the Doctor lose. So, what was the point? However, I disagree. First off, as just a standalone episode, assuming that this was a real story, I liked the angle of the Vatican reaching out to the Doctor to read this ancient text older than the Church itself. A text that leads anyone who reads it to commit suicide? That's just a great setup to a story. And it was cool to see the Hereticum in the Vatican full of the forbidden texts. Also, having the Doctor recently blinded right before he's asked to read an ancient text added the perfect bit of irony to the story, and I really enjoyed watching the Doctor struggle to pretend that he could actually see, with the occasional help from Nardole. Speaking to the simulation, I actually thought that it made the idea even cooler. The thought that the Doctor is so awesome that even a simulation of him is selfless enough and determined enough to help his real self defeat an enemy. That's pretty cool. Not to mention the fact that it brought about a lot of fantastic acting from all three members of the TARDIS team. Matt Lucas was great in this episode as the comic relief, as always, but he also got to play his serious side as he confronted the Doctor both in the present as well as in his initial reintroduction in the flashbacks, where we finally get an answer to how and why Nardole ended up traveling with the Doctor, upon the explicit orders of River Song, which explains why the Doctor is so okay with his presence despite seeming to be a bit annoyed with Nardole most of the time. His scene where he realized that he wasn't real was really sad, and it was the first realization that we got that this might not be what it initially appeared to be. What followed that introduction was the amazingly acted interaction between Bill and the Doctor, where he has to break it to Bill that both of them are not real. The care that he takes to break it to her slowly, and Bill's inability to accept the situation for what it is, are all perfectly portrayed, and this was yet another example of what a great pairing Peter and Pearl are. Also, it's not like this story was completely meaningless, because it did tip off the Doctor to the upcoming threat and gave him information on how they operate and even what they look like. The Doctor watched all of that, just like we did, so it makes up one of his experiences. Honestly, I'd rather watch a simulated version of the Doctor help save the world than see another timeline get erased to fix a paradox. So, you have to pick your battles in the Stephen Moffat era of Doctor Who. As for what I didn't like this episode, the repeated flipping back and forth between the present and the execution got a little annoying, especially because we never really stayed on the execution for longer than 60 seconds or so. If they had maybe combined some of those scenes to make less flashback overall, it might have worked a little better. However, the flashbacks did look gorgeous, and the backstory to Nardole's character and the reveal of who was in the vault were worth it. I just could have done with a little bit less of it. Overall, this episode was my favorite of the season so far. It had a great mystery throughout and was beautiful both in its scenery and set design, but also the lighting and costume work. The twist ending alienated some, but I thought it was a cool take on a Doctor Who story, and it set up the next arc with some seriously scary looking villains. For being the most intriguing episode of the season so far, and introducing the monks, I give Extremis 9 popes out of 10. So, that was my review of Series 10, Episode 6. Be sure to like and subscribe for more reviews and Doctor Who news every week. On the side, you can find my review for Series 10, Episode 5, Oxygen. So check that out if you haven't already. And thank you for being my companion on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.